right?
Yeah, Bella said it is, 100%.
Bella? Dive into a mortem den for a goddamn teddy bear, Bella?
Well, she got it.
2 people died.
What, really? Like, this is gonna be safe, right?
When was the last time you actually saw a mortem?
Okay. Usual sweep?
Yeah. Just remember to stay quiet.
This is safe, right?
It's best to be cautious.
ND149. ND149. What are those?
Mortem sightings. From back during the war. Box, now.
The topic of assignment is post-apocalypse. We began by looking at a multitude of sources, and we had to analyse them and come up with our own interpretation of one of their scenes. The sources we were given were Legete, Hunger Games, I'm Legend, and Black Mirror Metalhead. Personally, I liked all the sources we looked at. Legete had a really surrealist tone, which I wanted to take inspiration from. I Am Legend utilised unknown horror to a great extent in first half. Hunger Games looked at the survivalist nature of human behaviour, whilst Metalhead also looked at survivalist nature, but kind of tackled being isolated in a world against an extremely powerful force. All these kind of drew to the inspiration I wanted to take when writing for this project. Now, the idea to take inspiration from both I Am Legend and Metalhead to recreate our scenes wasn't initially mine. I had more of a Hunger Games type Battle Royale vision, but Ethan suggested his idea about these people going into a similar warehouse type location, like in Metalhead, to look for a box, and for the interactive ending, we choose what item they're actually going for. We all agreed that this was a really interesting idea, and I liked the whole warehouse setting because it gave me the chance to write some unknown horror, similar to the scene in I Am Legend where Will Smith's character chases the dog. So once we got the base idea down, I was given the opportunity to write the script, which was the role I was going for, since that's what I like to do. For the screenplay, I decided to follow the scene like Black Mirror, with the bump in the start, the slow build up, and then the big monster reveal at the end. And that's kind of the route we were going for mostly. But then we faced the problem with our location being taken from us. We weren't able to film in the metal box anymore, so I had to rewrite the script and adapt it to a car park. After I redrafted the script to take place in the car park instead of an actual factory, it worked but for a different reason. It focused more on the characters, their relationship, and their development over the actual surreal horror that I originally intended to shoot for. Because this new push in direction, the second draft contained way too much dialogue for the piece, so we had to redraft that and cut it down a bit. So the next one was again in the car park. It took the majority of the second draft, but I cut down to have less dialogue and more horror elements. Now that's difficult to do in an open car park in the middle of the day, but I kind of imagined it like we'd build it like a campsite, so they'd be rummaging around as this unknown entity is throwing things from going back and forth around them, circling them. By the way, it's not directly showing what's after them, but the audience kind of gets that frantic feeling the characters would get, building that suspenseful nature. And then it was revealed to us we couldn't use the metal box at all. Because of this, we were given a little more creativity to think outside the box for our new location. The new location was in the college itself, and it was another car park, but it was in no way as open as metal boxes. But luckily, we were allowed in the building next to the car park on the college grounds. This actually opened more opportunity for us because we could focus once again on the horror element of our original concept. So I went back to the first script and redrafted it with elements of both the second and third script. So we had some of the world building and character development of the second script, plus some of the action of the third, whilst maintaining the indoor horror aspect of the first. Personally, I much prefer our final draft. It's probably my favourite draft. There was one scene in the final draft that took inspiration from the beginning of I Am Legend, where it speaks of a vaccine that caused the apocalypse. It was kind of an inspiration to take two of these scenes from Metalhead and I Am Legend and implement them into one project, but we didn't have the time or resources to actually film that first scene, so it's not actually in the project. So the screenplay was done. Most of pre-production was coming to a halt. We've almost finished. We split off into different sections and individual groups to do different tasks. I focused on the screenplay, character profiles, basically anything to do with the characters or world building. Saf and Meg split off to focus on prop lists, costumes, all the various productions, like actual producing side of it, things that actors would need. Ethan focused on the digital storyboards and some of the work like that, and Gareth oversaw us all as the director. So pre-production had finished, and it was time to move on to our actual production. In production, we had to do various things. We actually had to film it on the day and record audio for it. We had to create our own soundtracks for it and our own title sequences for it. Oh, and also for posters and thumbnails. So on the actual production day, things didn't start off well. I woke up extremely ill on the day. Then my bus didn't show up, so I got there an hour late. But my group, thank God, was able to continue without me, since the first couple shots we needed to do didn't actually need me to control the audio. Once I got there, Matthew and Phil helped me set up the microphone and the boom mic and all that, and we went out ready to record. It was pretty cold on the day, but nothing we couldn't really handle. The first about 2 hours of production went on really well. We had to re-record some things quite a lot because we were instructed to, but that kind of screwed us over later on, because then we ran out of time and had to do one shots for the majority of our final few shots. But the few safety shots we had in the first half of our production were very helpful. So, like I said, the first half of our production did go well, but once we reached the second half, we were about 3.5 hours in when another group showed up to film. They were kind enough to stay out of the way whilst we filmed, but it did cause a kind of rush in what we were doing. We'd been rushing since about our third hour anyway, since we had to get most of the shots done, because we spent too long re-recording our first few shots. But once the other group showed up, it really showed that we were against a time limit here. It still took us about another hour and a half to finish after that, maybe 2 hours, rushing, and some scenes we wanted to take longer on because they were more complex. Some we rushed really badly, which in hindsight wasn't smart. A lot of our later shots, we have different people in the backgrounds, different audio from the recordings we did of people in the building talking. It really didn't go well, but I feel we managed to salvage most of it, except for my ending. I lost about half the clips we used for it, plus the mic ran out as we were filming the audio take for it, and the other group was already filming whilst we were filming this, so they were in some of those shots, and so I had to basically scrap most of my ending since it was unusable. I wouldn't say that's a really bad thing. The ending's kind of confusing since my original idea was to have like baby items in there because they were going in to try and get food and clothes for a baby, and the main character would have to choose to sacrifice his own life or for items for baby which he needs, and he sacrifices that so he can live. But because of how I had to cut it to keep the shot intact, it just looks like he's from a box. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. It's still salvageable, but like I'm pretty sure it's the same for most people's shots. A lot of them towards the end were less usable than the ones in the beginning. Furthermore, the actors themselves were really good. I couldn't have asked for better people. But some of the things we specifically requested from, like prop department and things like that, we didn't quite get. It kind of went the opposite in some things. Like, we specifically asked for the infected not to be too zombie looking. We wanted it to be very subtle, a few veins showing, pale and that. But on the day, the infected was covered in like blisters and cuts and wounds, and it looked really good, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't what we were looking for. It was completely the opposite of the concept we wanted. And furthermore, we also saw these infected like tall and lanky, similar to I'm Legend, but the girl we got wasn't, and she did well in the role, but it's difficult to see her being intimidating next to our leads, who were, well, pretty tall. But apart from that, the actors were amazing and really helped us work towards what we wanted to get, and I'm glad that we got the ones we got. They were almost perfect for what we wanted. So to sum up our production, overall it went pretty well, but I feel like timing and the just general timetable and planning just didn't. It was a great hindrance because no one was communicating very well, no one really knew what we were doing to the full extent because the timetables constantly changed and people were in and out, and I feel like the lack of planning on both our end and the lecturer's end was the biggest hindrance to our production and caused the biggest problems and was the most stressful part of it. Furthermore, working with the prop department was a great idea, but again, the lack of communication did a lot more bad than good on our end. But once production was over, it was on to post-production. We were fully independent, and it was down to us to do what we needed to do. So, we're on to post-production. Most of the stuff we had was there. We obviously had some clips and audio takes that weren't the best, but we didn't really... we could have refilmed them looking in hindsight, but I know one of the actors we had was also a media student, but the girl who played Sam, I don't know. So I'm not entirely sure whether or not we could have got them back to refilm some scenes. But Again, we never really tried, so that's on our end. That was a mistake we did. But apart from that, like, we were able to salvage most of the clips and audio takes and actually do something with them, which is great. For making the posters, we made the mistake of Saf forgot to take actual pictures. Like, she took production photos, but she forgot to take like pictures for actors and as characters. So we didn't have anything to utilize for our actual posters. But we decided to go into the studio and try and take pictures for like the box net, so we could have something on our poster. And that's when for my poster I had the idea of taking pictures of Ethan as the Infected, Gareth as Martin, and Meg as Sam, and kind of below the shadows they become silhouettes, so we could have the characters in our posters whilst not actually having the actors portray them. So that's what I did with my poster, so it's less of a photographic poster, it looks more like an illustration. But that was one way to come across that, to tackle that problem. And as far as the post-production for audio went, I was pretty sure I normalized, truncated, equalized, and compressed all my audio clips if I needed it. But when doing my editing, I realized there was one or two that I forgot to compress, and I didn't have time to go back to do that. So you can tell in the actual clip, there's a couple which are a lot louder than the rest of the dialogue because I forgot to compress them. Furthermore, I made a few I made a few soundtrack examples if I wanted to use. But I only actually exported one, and I didn't realize until, well, when I'm filming this on Friday, that I didn't export them, so I only had one soundtrack to work from, which I cut into different pieces and used throughout it. It wasn't that big a deal, but I would have appreciated being able to use the rest of my soundtrack. Apart from that, we managed to go into the studio and re-record some sound effects we needed. I went around collecting ambience and Foley on the actual day for to use for this, so that wasn't a problem. So audio, for the most part, went really well in the post-production stage. Now, when it came to animation, to making a title sequence, I wanted to do an effect where I had these pictures, and they'd burn up, and like the new picture would come forth once that burnt up. Which I couldn't do exactly as I planned because we forgot to take photos on the day on set. But I still managed to salvage it. I created my own newspaper to have as one of them, and we did take. I did remember to get Saf to take pictures of the map board we had on set, and then I just used some pictures for box we took in the studio, and I managed to redo what I planned to an extent. It was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, and I couldn't find any actual tutorials or how-to guides online that were in-depth. It was mainly people just showing what they did rather than describing and teaching how to do it. But that aside, I managed to do a pretty decent title sequence. Kind of ignoring the burning effect. I did like a 3D one, similar to The Walking Dead. But 2 days before we had to hand it in, I accidentally took my SD card out of my laptop without ejecting it, and it corrupted all the title sequence work I had done. Because of this, I had 2 days to try and recreate the title sequence, and I thought, I'm either going to remake it or I'm not, So I decided to go out and try and recreate my original idea, because why not? I've got 2 days. I'm not going to, do something extraordinary, so I may as well attempt to do what I originally planned. And I did. It's not as amazing as the ones I've seen online, but it works well enough, and I am actually happy, and I prefer it over the one I lost. And finally, film and TV, the actual editing, the big chunk that we have to do. We have to make the actual thing, don't we? This was a big it kind of mind-boggled a lot of us, because we're all under the assumption, because we all remember being told this, but we may just be misremembering, but we're under the assumption that we have one cut in the middle, we all make a title sequence, and then we all choose on that one. We all make a individual edit, and we all choose on that one, because the only thing that's different between our projects is our endings, because it's the interactive storytelling. But we were told a week before we had to hand it in that wasn't the case. We all had to do actual proper edits, and all our work would be completely different, which wasn't too big a pushback because we were making individual edits anyway, but the change to what we thought we had to do was kind of, it pushed us back a bit. It was a bit stressful, but it was easy to overcome. I finished my edit pretty quickly. I had most of my clips, but my ending clips now. But again, the same with my animation work. I lost it when I took my SD card out by accident. So I had to recreate my edit, and I lost a few scenes from my final scene. So I had to salvage as much as I could from that. I feel like my final edit is pretty alright. I especially like the scenes I used from POV from the infected's point of view, because I changed the saturation and the contrast on it, I color balanced it a little bit, so you have this kind of infrared type of look, but it's not like a heat signature, it kind of has that theme to it, like an infrared theme, so it feels otherworldly, similar to like the Predator from Predator, that's kind of the look I was going for, and I feel like the look in those point of views is probably the best part of my edit, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I do think I salvaged it pretty well. It's about 4 minutes long. It's not amazing, but it is alright. So yeah, that's the end of my project. I'm recording the majority of this vlog on the day after hand it in, because I forgot to actually record the vlogs. Because the constant change of things, my mind's been all over the place doing this assignment. But, that being said, I have tried my best to salvage and complete it as much as I can. Overall, I think it went, considering the amount that's gone wrong in this assignment, I think my work's come out alright. I've done the best I can, so has my group, I'm pretty sure, and everyone in the class has gone through stress in this assignment, and we've all tried our best, and through a multitude of problems, it's come out pretty good. In the future, I feel the best way I can improve is definitely by planning better, utilizing my time more efficiently, and following itineraries, things like that, because the lack of planning is certainly what went wrong the most in this project, so that's what I'll improve on for my FMP.